Hi, I'm Wayne McDonald, and I'm going to be sharing with you today on Living an Abundant Life 3 key principles that will help you experience absolute abundant life in your family. Stay tuned. Wayne McDonald, thanks so much for tuning in to Living an Abundant Life. Today we're going to talk about 3 key principles of how to have abundant life in your family. Key number 1 is establishing a date night every single week. Now, my wife and I have been doing this for years, and we still get off track. There's things that come up every single week to try to derail us, to try to get us off track. And I'm sure the same is true in your life. Some people have just given up entirely and don't even fight for that date night anymore. But I believe you're tuning in today because you want to go higher in your family life. You know that there's more for you than what you're presently experiencing. We want to continue to grow and move forward. So key number 1 to experiencing abundant life in your family is establishing a date night. And you're going to have things that come up all the time to try to take you off course. We do, and I haven't met a couple yet that says every week it just absolutely flows and we have a certain day set aside where we go and we date one another and nothing ever tries to come up. I've never met any couple that has said that. But you have to fight to stay on course. And when you get off course, just get back on course as soon as possible. We've been doing this for a long time. We actually learned it from our pastor, from Pastor Richard and Helen Myers. I've watched them for over 25 years. And every Friday, they go on a date together. They usually go out of town and they'll go somewhere. They'll maybe see a show or go out to eat. They spend time, quality time, pursuing one another. He's a very smart man, my pastor. He knows that you have to be intentional about dating your spouse. So many times we get comfortable, specifically after you're married for a long time. My wife and I have been married for over 20 years. And when you are married for a long time, you can become comfortable. You can take the other person for granted. And you can stop pursuing that person. You can stop dating that person. Let's back up. Remember what it was like before you married that husband, before you married that wife. You were always on your best behavior. You were opening the door for each other. You were being courteous. Now, after you're married for a long, long time, you can take one another for granted and stop treating one another nice. You can stop pursuing one another. You stop dating so many times after you're married for a long time. But you have to be intentional. And you can change if you want to. I don't care what your past has been like. Your marriage might suck. It might be horrible. But you can change that today. You have to be intentional about it. You can have abundant life in your family. It's a choice. It's a decision. Start today. Be intentional about it. Plan a date night with your spouse. Take them out. Go somewhere. Even if it's maybe you don't have a lot of money, you don't need a lot of money. You can go for a walk, go to the mall, get out, go do something together, go have fun, go for a drive. Do something to connect with that person. Do something to show that person you are pursuing them. So let that person know how important they are. So number 1, spend time each week focusing on having a date night. That's the first thing. Number 2, the second thing to having abundant life in your family, set up every week family night. Now, in my household, we have family night on Friday evenings. Saturday or Sunday, depending on what's going on that week, is date night for my wife and I. Stuff is always coming up to try to pull us off track, but we get back on course, we get back on track, and this is something that we are intentional about and we fight for. The other week, my wife and I and my daughter, we sat down, we played Monopoly together. Sometimes we play checkers, sometimes we take out the motorcycles or go for a bike ride or go to the mall. We do all kinds of things to connect with one another. Make the effort. Be intentional about spending time with your children. Put down the mobile devices. Shut off the television. And connect with one another. So many times in the society that we live in today, everyone's on their mobile device. They're watching videos, they're listening to music. We're in the same room, but we're not connecting. Be intentional about connecting with your children, connecting with your spouse. It's not going to just happen. Your life can go right by and you don't even know your spouse. You don't even know your children. Make the effort. Fight the good fight of faith. Set up a date night. Set up family time together. Do whatever you need to. I was listening to a story told by Dr. John Maxwell, and Dr. John Maxwell said the story goes like this. There was a fella, he was a businessman, and he came home one evening and his daughter had drew a picture of the family. The dog was in the picture, the cat, the house, and he thought, well, that's cute, honey. And he asked the little girl, he says, where is daddy? And the little girl, with no animosity, with absolute purity of heart, responded and said, well, you're not there. And the father said, well, why not? And she said, because you're never, ever here. That father made no commitment. He wasn't intentional about spending time with the family. There was no time set aside each week for family night. He just worked. Now I realize there's a demand on us, especially as men, to work and be the provider. And that's okay, but make sure it's balanced. Make sure that as you are pursuing your career, you are pursuing your wife, your spouse, you're pursuing your family. You want those children to feel important. Be creative. Do things to engage the family together. Do things that each other enjoys. And sometimes you want to break it up. And maybe some nights when you spend a date night with your spouse, it needs to be what she wants. And then another week needs to be what he wants. So you go back and forth meeting the desires of your spouse, and you do the same thing with family life. I don't necessarily enjoy playing some of the games that my daughter likes or my wife likes. I do it for them. There are certain games I enjoy playing more than others. There's certain things I enjoy doing more than others that they don't enjoy as much. I love going on bike rides. Do whatever you need to do. Make the sacrifice. Love is sacrifice. The point is, you can have abundant life in your family if you'll make the commitment and if you'll be intentional about it. Like Jesus said, I've come that you might have and enjoy life and have it in abundance to the full till it overflows. It is the heart cry of your Heavenly Father for you to have and enjoy life in abundance to the full till it overflows. You can have abundant life in your family. You have to be focused. You have to be intentional. When you get off course, get back on course again. Do whatever you need to do. Make the investment. Do what you need to do to establish a date night, to establish family night. And then number 3 is a communication book. I can't tell you the blessing that a communication book is. My wife and I would deal with hot topics because of the businesses that we run, the things we're involved in. We're always dealing with hot topics all the time. We learned earlier, and we continuing to work on this. We haven't arrived at all, but we're better than what we were, to communicate through writing in a book. Open up a book, a binder, write down your thoughts on a piece of paper, and sit it somewhere where your spouse can read it. A communication book. So that way you can communicate hot topics, maybe areas where you feel like your needs aren't being met, areas where you feel like the other person is not getting you. Write it down so that way they can respond and they can process that. You're not right in front of them. It gives them time to think about what they're going to say, and so that way you can communicate with one another and so that you can work it out. Hot topics include what the children are allowed to eat and not eat. My attitude and my position on that is different than my wife. So if something's bothering me that my little girl is ingesting and I think it's damaging for her, write it down and present it to your spouse. I realized just to bring it up will irritate my wife. But if I write it down, she can process it and then respond, and then we can work it out together. It's all about working these things out, working through these things. And so it takes effort, it takes energy, but I can't tell you what a blessing the communication book has been in our marriage, in our life. I need to use it more than what I do, but I'll tell you what, when I have used it and when I do use it, it sure is a lot more beneficial than bringing up that hot topic and then discussing it face to face without no preparation, without the other person having a chance to gather his or her thoughts together. Things will go much smoother for you if you communicate those things through a communication book. Don't just allow the things that are going on inside of you, unmet needs, areas of frustration, to just be suppressed. I used to do that. I stopped doing that. It's very unhealthy. Do not suppress all those feelings. At the same time, you don't wear all your feelings on your sleeve, but you learn how to balance this delicate balance of communicating your feelings, if there's hurt, if there's frustrations, unmet needs, different rhythms in how to raise the children, different rhythms in how to spend the money, and how to manage the finances, hot topics. Write it down in a communication book. Write it down in a binder, a piece of paper, and allow your spouse to process that thing. It'll be a great blessing to you. Well, thanks so much for tuning in to today's broadcast. I've been sharing a little bit out of my book, 7 Keys to Living an Abundant Life, principles that will absolutely revolutionize your life. I've been dealing with these principles out of this new book that I wrote called 7 Keys to Living an Abundant Life. Out of chapter number 3, it's dealing with spending time with family. So I've been dealing with a couple of the principles, the excerpts out of chapter number 3. Get a copy of this. This will bless you. And also it'll support the ministry. It'll help us to continue to be a voice to the nations. But this will bless you. You can go to our website, www.voicetothenations.com, and purchase a copy of the paperback, or you can go to Amazon.com and download it as an ebook. And 10% of the revenue that comes in specifically from the revenue of this book goes into world missions, goes into help to drill fresh water wells, goes into helping to feed the poor and minister to the needs of those that are in need. Get a copy. It'll change and revolutionize your life. It'll change your family tree forever. Well, thanks so much for tuning into today's broadcast. And I pray you have a blessed week. You can follow us on Facebook at Voice to the Nations Worldwide Evangelism. I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Wayne McDonald, Abundant Life. You can also follow us on Twitter at Wayne McDonald. Wherever you are, we are. We are a voice to the nations. Thank you so much for your support. Together, we are a voice to the nations, and we are making a difference. Thank you so much for your partnership, and have a blessed week.